Hi everyone, I'm Semaganda Joseph for Big Game Animal Breeding Farm. Thanks once again for joining us on our YouTube channel. As always, I've got very important information for you. Today, I will be answering the most asked question when people give me calls, that what is the adequate size of land if you want to give like 50 or 100 goats? Oh, if I have 2 acres or 3 acres, can I do animal farming on zero grazing? It is very, very possible. But what I want to tell you people, even if you have 100 acres, even if you grow 100 acres of maize and you don't do proper management of that maize, and someone does 10, that someone will harvest more than someone who has done 100. It's like having 100 goats which are pathetic and very small and thin, and someone who has 50 who will make more profits. So the size of the land, it's okay, it matters. But what matters most are the kind of pastures and the volume you are going to get from that size of land. So assume you have 3 acres or 2.5 acres and you feel like you want to do zero grazing, because you can't have 50 on 2 acres when you are doing free range. It is impossible. That's for those people who have got big chunks of land. And fellow youthers and some people who have limited space like us, what we can do is to go the pastures, do proper management of pastures, and then we have a higher number of animals. So dear farmers, all of you asking, if you have 3 acres, it's an assumption, take half an acre for structures and for the housing for the workers, and a small house where you'll be sleeping. Then what kind of pastures are you going to grow there matters a lot. Of course, Ghana or Bracharia Mawata. I would recommend Bracharia because it has more protein content and nutrients as compared to Ghana. But if you have Ghana, it's still okay, as long as you are going to provide these animals, those pastures in form of hay. Why hay? Because when they take hay, they eat less and then drink a lot of water. And besides that, when we are talking about a goat eating 2 kgs of feeds, we mainly think about the dry matter content, not the fresh one. So if you are giving your animals fresh Napier, they consume a lot more than even 2 kgs, because the big part of it will be water. So that's why we do silage and keep it in form of silage. So dear farmers, the size of land matters, but what is on that piece of land is what matters most. If you have 5 acres and you want to keep 100 goats or 200, it is very possible. But how can it be possible? Take your first year growing pastures only, because you can't stock animals after the first harvest. By the time you harvest again, these animals can consume feeds. I'm telling the truth, because I'm doing it and I'm seeing it myself. So I would advise you, if you have 3 acres or 2.5 acres, first utilize those 2 acres for a full year while storing your feeds. Even if you have Napier and Chorus Guyana and some region pastures like alfalfa, take the first year, be patient with this, because for effectiveness and better results or success, you need a better plan. We all started without a better plan. I'm advising you on this. If you have 3 acres or 2.5 acres and you want to have 100 goats, it's possible. But this is the procedure or the right criteria you should follow if you want it to happen in your way. Take the first year planting these pastures, keeping them in the form of hay and doing silage. If you harvest like 4 times or 5 times or 3 times in that year, you have enough feeds. So that by the time you do the stocking, they have enough feeds. By the time they finish all those feeds, you will have harvested again around 3 to 4 times. So you'll be having enough feeds. But if you plant the feeds after 3 months, you are harvesting them and then you stock the animals. By the time you do the second harvesting and the third, the animals will have consumed those feeds. But if you have more feeds before stocking your animals, you'll be able to take care of your animals. But if you stock after like the first or the second harvest, these animals, the 100 goats will consume your hay, your silage, and your pastures very fast. So take the first year planning. What should you do first? Plant the feeds, be harvesting the feeds when there are no animals. If you have stocked enough feeds within the first year, then the following year bring in your animals. As they will be eating the older feeds, by the end of that year, those feeds will be enough for a full year, the following year, when you have just stocked your animals. And again, by the end of that year, you have stocked the same amount of feeds. That's the only way you can keep more animals on a smaller piece of land. Prepare the feeds first for a full year, store them, because he can sit there for 3 to 5 or 6 years. Even in silage, if properly covered, it can stay for 4, 5, 6 or 7 years, depending on how you have managed your silo stops. So, dear farmers, whosoever is planning to utilize 2.5 acres and you want 50 goats, it is possible, even if you want 100. But it's possible with 100 if you are doing irrigation, so that every after 35 to 45 days you'll be able to harvest the Napier pakchong, the chloris, for the sake of alfalfa every after 3 weeks. And you do the baling, you store your pastures there, you have your silage into place, and even other stuff. So that's the only way you can manage that. But if you want the animals, have a limited space, you bring in 25 goats, by the end of the year, there will be 50. The feeds won't be enough for you. So if you have a small piece of land and you want a reasonable amount or number of animals, use the first year for preparing feeds only. So by the time those animals will be on zero grazing, it is eating those feeds. By the end of the following year, you have harvested even more. Because for pakchong, the more you harvest, the more it increases in volume. Even if it is alfalfa, even if it is coarse or brachiaria, the more you harvest, when you apply back the dung or use fertilizers, maybe even if you have organic or inorganic fertilizer, it will still work. So dear farmers, whosoever has a small piece of land, this is my advice to you. Even as we don't have enough land, we are lucky enough, we hired an acre up there. Our neighbors gave us a chance. We have started planting sugar grapes. Very soon I'll be showing you how to plant sugar grapes, and I'll be giving you details on how to grow it. Thanks so much for following.
And please take this information to be very vital to you all people with small chunks of land. Reason being, if you stock animals after the first harvesting, you won't be able to feed your animals. And remember, these animals are going to produce, so they'll be multiplying in numbers. So it is very, very important that you use your first year harvesting those pastures you have planted, because if you are going for zero grazing, even if you are on free range, nutrition is key. So if you know without feeds you can't do that, so use the first year to harvest the pastures, be storing the pastures for a full year. By the time we bring in the animals, by the time they consume the feeds of first year, you have produced more feeds, so they will be able to do even 100 plus goats on 2.5 acres or 3. Thanks so much.